or have very little value. And it's one of those things that I go into a place of condemnation, and I start feeling bad, and I start feeling I'm never going to be good enough. But I want to shift off of that, because all of those questions that we talked about on Sunday, all of those things that we talked about was really about my mark. But we got a bigger mark that we want to talk about. Something that I don't want us to pass by, something I want to make sure that we grasp today. And this is going to be the hardest part of that talk. And that is the mark that God has gifted each one of us to be a part of. He has placed inside of us a gift to make a mark for Him. And the question is for us is whether or not we're going to make His mark, or allow Him to make His mark through us, or whether or not we're just going to make our own mark. In Joshua, there's a story in Joshua. Joshua had just taken over for the Israelites. Moses had died. They were getting ready to cross over they had just crossed over to the Jordan River. They were on the other side, and for the first time in most of their lifetimes, they didn't have to rely on God for the manna that was going to be provided to them on a daily basis. They were into land where there was plentiful food, where they could eat off of the land on things that they had not planted and had not provided, and they didn't have to wake up in the morning and make sure that God was actually going to provide for them. They could just go out and get as much as they wanted. And God's concern when they went into the promised land was that His concern was that they were going to forget, and they were no longer going to depend on Him. And Joshua, he's in the plains of Jericho. He's getting ready to go up against this huge fortress of a city. And he's probably a couple days out. They're preparing for war. They haven't ever had war because they've been wandering in the wilderness, so they've never fought a battle before. And Joshua, the story that we're going to talk about is in Joshua 5:13 through 15. And the verses talk about the fact that Joshua was by himself. And he was in the plains of Jericho, and there was a man that approached him with a sword drawn. And he looked up, and he asked the man, "Are you for me, or are you against me?" And the man responded, "Neither." And I think that at that point, God was just trying to let Joshua know. He said, "It's not about me coming in here to be a part of your life, Joshua." God's saying it's not for me to come in here and be a part of my chosen people, the Israelites. I think He's coming in and saying, it's not about who I'm for. It's a question of whether or not, Joshua, you want to be a part of my story. And so I think what God is saying to us in this whole thing is that He's looking at us, and He's saying, Gary, Will, William, Hank, what are you going to do? He's saying to all of us, what are you going to do? Are you going to take your skills, your gifts, your talents, all of those things that I have given to you, and are you going to allow me to use those as a part of your story? As a part of His story, to make my mark on your life? And that's what God is asking. But the key is, at that point, what is going to be your response? And the story in Joshua further goes on, and it says, the man said, "I am the commander of the armies of the Lord." And upon that, Joshua fell on his face in reverence and asked him, "What message do you have for me?" The man responded, "Take off your sandals, for you are on holy ground." And I think God, in a way, is telling Joshua, as he wants us to apply this to our lives right now, He wants he wanted Joshua, he's saying, Joshua, he said, you're getting ready, you're on the cusp of something big. He said, I'm sure Joshua, when he got down and asked that question, he's thinking, maybe this guy's going to give me battle plans for Jericho. Maybe he's going to tell me something that I need to know. And I think God was really just saying, Joshua, before you do this, before you go and you conquer Jericho, because it's going to be incredible, and before you make your mark on this world, and before you stand up and really be the leader of the Israelites that I have chosen you for, and before your name is known throughout the whole known world, I want you to know this is not about your mark. This is about my mark. This is about the things that I want to do through you. This is not about your name or the Israelites or anything. This is about me. So, there are some things that I know. Some things that I know about you and about me. I know that we have no idea the extent of what God wants to do in our lives. That I do know. I don't think we can even fathom what God would want to do in our lives. But I do know one thing. I do know that probably when it does happen, we won't even realize it. The question once again goes back to, what's your response? I know a second thing about you and I. I know that you don't want to miss this. At least I hope you don't want to miss this. You don't want to miss the chance to be in a place where God can use you. You don't want to miss that chance to be able to be used by Him to make His mark. Third thing I know about you and about me is that my life is not a big enough thing to make my mark. That God's mark is about the only thing that is worth giving my life to. Yeah. That's the only thing worth giving my life to. What mark can I make? I can't make a mark that's going to have in it of any eternal significance unless He makes His mark through me. So then I go back to, we need to be in a place where we are perfectly positioned to have God use us to make His mark. So how do we do that?